Look at all the people here. And now I'm one of them. What are the odds, right? There's Roger, there's John, there's Bill, there's Eugene, there's Hank. What's up, Hank? There's Frank, there's Webb. Hello, Webb. There's Donna, there's Andrew. And that appears to be everybody right now, at least everybody who said anything there. People not talking in the chat room, hi to you as well. Oh, there's Ronald. All right. Let's just, you want to do a thing? Why don't we do a thing? I forgot to write down how I was going to start the show, so let's see if I can remember it. I'm already recording, so we're good. So, yeah. A big announcement for small developers. It is Wednesday, the 18th of November, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. It is the 18th of November because you don't need to hear about my stuff. Hi, everybody. It's Ken Ray welcoming you to another edition of macOS Ken Live. Sometimes this show is very, very, very well prepared. Very, very, very well thought out. Otherwise, other times, rather, it's kind of seat of the pants. And I will leave it to you to determine which one today is. So Apple made a big announcement about commissions for app developers, big and small. Actually, they just made the announcement for small, but it ends up being an announcement for big as well. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about what it's going to do to Apple's bottom line. Spoiler alert, almost nothing. First half of the show, though, we'll go over some of what Apple announced and some of the reactions to it. This is not exhaustive because, well, we'll do I don't know if we're going to do a more exhaustive thing on tomorrow's macOS Ken or not. It really feels to me like this comes down to, actually, I should tell you what they said first. I apologize. So Apple issued a press release earlier today saying that developers, you see, I even hate the headline. Basically, what it comes down to is Apple is going to cut commissions for app developers who make less than $1 million, which is almost all of them, right? And that's less than $1 million annually, and that's less than $1 million selling apps through the App Store, or through the app stores. One example I saw is if you're a developer and you sell an iOS app and an iPadOS app, and you also sell an app for the Mac, but you sell it on your own site, well, you sell on your own site, your own business. That doesn't figure into the $1 million thing. And there are probably some businesses for whom that matters. I don't know if it's the largest group of them, but this whole thing gets, I don't want to go so far as to say a business of nickels and dimes, but it's not as cut and dried as some might think. So forgive me, because I've got a few different sets of notes here. Basically, Apple came out and said that they're only going to charge 15% for people who make less than $1 million. That's going to begin in January of next year. We do not yet know the nuts and bolts of it. The program, I should say, is going to start in January of next year. Details are coming out in December. Here's a little bit of what Apple said in their App Store Small Business Program, which is technically what this falls under. Existing developers who made up to $1 million in 2020 for all of their apps, as well as developers new to the App Store, can qualify for the program and the reduced commission. If a participating developer passes $1 million, the standard commission rate will apply for the remainder of the year. So basically, the first $1 million is at 15%. Everything after that is at the standard 30%. If a developer's business falls below the $1 million threshold in the future calendar year, they can requalify for the 15% commission. Yay. Nobody wants to think about that, but of course that is a possibility. And that is good news for developers who fall on hard times for some reason. The App Store standard commission rate of 30% remains in place for apps selling digital goods and services and making more than $1 million in proceeds, defined as a developer's post-commission earnings, whatever. So the press release that Apple put out then had all of these glowing comments from developers. Obviously, they cherry-picked. What's interesting is Apple Insider also ran a story where they said developers are delighted. And I would imagine that is true for some developers. I would imagine that is not true for all developers, but you got to figure those are the ones who made $900,000 last year, who are possibly looking at making less once they get over a million. But you're still, I don't know. I I don't know where I am on this, honestly. I think it is good that they're doing this for small business. I think Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic, is we've talked about this before, disingenuous. At the same time, why wouldn't he want to only pay 15%? What's funny is an article I was reading in which he was interviewed earlier today said that he thinks a fair amount would be 8%. Seems a bit low. What was one of the things that Apple had said? Sorry. Talking about the different things that developers do benefit from. Apple is committed to giving developers the tools to turn their brightest ideas into apps that change the world. Tools like HealthKit give engineers secure access to user health data. ARKit empowers developers to explore new frontiers of augmented reality, and Core ML harnesses the speed and intelligence of machine learning to help developers build powerful features with just a few lines of code. None of that is anything that Epic is ever going to use. They might use the machine learning, right? None of that is stuff that Fortnite is ever going to use, but it all goes into developing a greater ecosystem. I would imagine some of that money also goes into building the data centers that serve people the apps and the content and all that stuff. Is it Tim Sweeney's fault that he makes more than $1 million? It's all just, I understand their complaint that they shouldn't have to pay more than anybody else. At the same time, I think about things like with great power comes great responsibility, or, what's the actual quote? Of those to whom much is given, much is expected. Which, I mean, doesn't make it Tim Sweeney's job to do this. I will say a lot of the comments that have come out today have been from people like the CEO of Spotify. Hey, everybody listening on Spotify, by the way, from like Spotify or from Sweeney, saying, "Nah, totally lost my train of thought." That's the horrible part about doing it live and not writing everything out. I feel certain it's down here in the notes someplace. I gotta say, there is one thing that I didn't like seeing. There's a quote going around where Tim Sweeney likened the problem that he has in the App Store with the fight for civil rights in the US. Um, Two things. First of all, he never should have said that. But second, he didn't say that today, it doesn't sound like. An article that I was reading looked honestly cut and pasted from a few different places. I want to say the article was from TechCrunch. And it said that Tim Sweeney said that what's going on in the App Store is like the battle for civil rights. No, it's not. Because nobody's going to come to you and hang you because you're a developer. At the same time, people throwing that back up today strikes me as disingenuous because he didn't say it today. He said it a long time ago. The only thing that clued me to the fact that he said it a long time ago was it was cut and pasted from an article that said, while a lot of attendees may have rolled their eyes, I don't think he's having a conference today. I could be wrong. Tim Sweeney's his own thing, right? It's interesting the different takes that people have. Apple Insider very much says developers are incredibly excited. CNET ran a piece that said developers have been fighting for this for years, including some big developers. As if, the average John and Jane developer, the two people who are working two jobs and writing an app at night. And I don't even know if those are the average John and Jane developers anymore. There's a weird thing around developers. I'm thinking about things like Tim Sweeney talking about how unfair the App Store is to a company like Epic. And so he sets up an organization or is part of an organization called the Coalition for App Fairness. Coalition for App Fairness is Basecamp and Spotify and Epic. And there is absolute need for regulators to look into app stores. But to call yourself the Coalition for App Fairness, I don't know. I was talking with a friend the other day about this. When you say developer, what leaps to mind? Epic is not what leaps to mind for me, although they are technically a developer. Basecamp is not what leaps to mind, though they technically are developers. What leaps to mind is friends of mine who have built apps because that's what developer. That's sort of the romantic notion of what developer is. And we want those people to do well and do better. What's great is all the stuff that Apple had from all of the developers it talked to, and some of the ones that Apple Insider talked to as well, with the headline "Developers Delighted at Apple's Reduced App Store Commission." Um, they all talked about the fact that they'll be able to put money back into their business. That's a wonderful thing. One of the things that I've got an advertiser starting on In a Few Minutes in a couple of weeks, and I don't know what their rate is because I don't handle their sales, but I've got an advertiser starting there in a couple of weeks. And my first thought was, great. I can take that and put it back into all the stuff I was talking about for this show. So I can maybe get a co-host, or I can maybe get, somebody to start producing or something like that. Now, of course, I have to see if that money is actually going to sustain. I don't know if they're on for, 1 week or 6 weeks or, for the full year or what. But it is exciting when you have a business and suddenly there's a little bit more money that you can turn back into the business to hopefully grow it into something else. And it's weird to talk about this as a business, and yet, it's what I've been doing for 15 years. So I guess it kind of is. It's great to see all of those developers talk about the fact that they will be able to do that. I want everything for everybody there. That's all I want. I just want everything for everybody. I want the small business program to work. I saw one complaint. I believe it was the CEO from Basecamp, or the CEO of Hey, which was developed by Basecamp, I believe, saying earlier today that it's completely unfair that people have to apply. That people have to apply for this program is completely unfair. Dude, you're making over $1 million. I'm sorry. I don't think that anybody who's looking at, you know, possibly getting, there was another thing that I read that said the cut from 30% to 15% actually means 20% more revenue for the people who are under that program. They're going to fill out some forms. Plus, it's Apple. They're going to make it easy. You're not going to have to sit in front of a desk and get something notarized or things like that. You'll apply, you'll do your thing. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's probably going to be easier than getting a small business loan from the Small Business Administration. That would be my guess. I don't know. There's some people are saying that this is just a PR thing on Apple's part. Well, yeah. I mean, not just a PR thing, but it's definitely a PR thing. Epic has had this whole thing all year, well, since August, right? Where they liken Apple to Big Brother. That's the whole 1980 Fortnite thing. And now Apple is doing something that is going to affect a large number of developers to what is for Apple a small amount of money. And now people are saying, well, this is just a PR stunt. Well, it's not just a PR stunt, but if anybody aligned with Epic wants to talk about PR stunts, all they can really do is offer how-tos. So I had this idea that I would read all of these articles and I would have some coherent something. You can see coherence didn't really end up entering into how this went. The thing is, I don't know that it's going to be any more coherent for Mac OS X. I mean, once you sit with this stuff, it's still a question of, it feels like it's still a question of whose side are you on? And I can look at all of these different things and say, okay, well, that doesn't seem fair to Epic, or that doesn't seem fair to developers, that doesn't seem fair to consumers, and that's on everybody's part. The article that I was reading about Epic earlier actually had Tim Sweeney referring to Fortnite as a platform, to which the interviewer, last name Sorkin, first name Andrew, I think, and forgive me because I know it's a name that I know, but I just can't pull it out right now, basically said to him, oh, so you're a platform. Are you making it possible for people to make money on your platform? And his answer was a little cagey. Something along the lines of, they've actually made it possible for players in Fortnite to create their own stuff. And then he said, there is a sort of commerce there, I believe he said. or a sort of revenue there. It wasn't clear. I mean, he didn't say, "Yes, we have this place where you can go and you can sell and you can do." He basically made it sound like people have found a way to weasel money out of it. He also says that's the way it's moving, although it's moving slowly. What's taken so long? I mean, you can look at every bit of this and say somebody's being hosed. The only people it feels like are not being hosed are the small developers who suddenly will be making more in commission or have a, chance at making more in commission. It's not an either or thing either, or it's not an either or thing either. I mean, regulators are still going to look at Apple. I believe it was one of the Epic things again that said what Apple is trying to do. Oh, here we go. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney called the program an attempt at gerrymandering the community with a patchwork of special deals by giving special 15% terms to select robber barons like Amazon, and now also to small indies. Apple is hoping to remove enough critics that they can get away with their blockade on competition and 30% tax on most in-app purchases. I'm sorry, are you accusing Apple of messaging 1980 Fortnite? He says consumers will still pay inflated prices marked up by the Apple tax. That's, of course, been one of his arguments the whole time. Spotify says Apple's anti-competitive behavior threatens all developers on iOS, and this latest move further demonstrates that their App Store policies are arbitrary and capricious. Arbitrary and capricious? The gall. I wish I could have thought of something that started with an A there. Well, capricious doesn't start with an A. Never mind. I don't know. For his part, Apple CEO Tim Cook says we're launching this program to help small business owners write the next chapter of creativity and prosperity on the App Store and to build the kind of quality apps our customers love. This program will help developers fund their small businesses, take risks on new ideas, expand their teams, and continue to make apps that enrich people's lives. I saw a few things say that 15% is really going to make a difference. It's an argument worth making. I don't know that anybody is staying out of the App Store because 30%, right? A lot of the spin on it today seems to be if Apple's only charging 15%, a lot more people are going to come in and start developing for the App Store. Yeah, it feels to me like if you're gonna do that, you're gonna do that. You're gonna hope you're gonna make enough with Apple taking the 30%. This will definitely make it better. This will definitely make it easier for some people once they're actually in. But is there anybody who's sitting outside the App Store saying, "I'm not gonna develop for the App Store because they take 30%. If they brought it down to 15, then I'm in." It's possible. I don't know everybody. In fact, if you look at the population of the planet, I know very few people. Coming up in just a moment, we'll talk about early reaction from Wall Street. As I said before, it's kind of a non-starter in a way. First of all, I want to remind you about a couple of other things I do all week long. I'm talking to the after show's Mike Rose, different Apple topics. In a few minutes is the show that I'm talking about. Sorry if I skipped ahead there. Basically, it's 10 or 15 minutes a day, me and somebody I know talking technology stuff. Sometimes they're people who work in tech. Sometimes they are people who, just other podcasters, things like that. Friends of mine who have interesting takes on Apple stuff. That's who I tend to call. Comes out Monday through Friday, although I hear there are some people who listen to all of them at once. In a few minutes is the name of the show. You can find it wherever you find podcasts. There's actually audio of it available on this YouTube channel as well if you're watching here on YouTube. And macoscan.com. Also, if you go to the shows section of macoscan.com, the latest episode will be there, along with the other shows I do, macOS Can Live, which you're listening to right now, and the checklist brought to you by Secure Mac. So if you could check out the other stuff I do, I'd be happy as Larry, however happy he is. Right, let's talk about Wall Street reaction really quickly, because there hasn't been much that I've seen. The two notes that I saw, Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty and JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee, both basically said this isn't going to affect Apple's bottom line in any big way. From an Apple Insider piece, Chatterjee believes the program will cover a majority of developers, but will affect a much smaller percentage of App Store revenue drivers. The benefits will apply to small businesses and independent developers and not major platforms, hence the relatively minor impact on potential earnings. Additionally, the analyst suggests that the reduced 15% rate could be permanent for small businesses and individual developers going forward. Unless they make $1 million. Come on, Samik, be positive. I don't see why it wouldn't be permanent going forward. I mean, that's the whole thing about it being a small business program, right? I guess at some point Apple could kill that program, but that's just buying bad PR, seems to me. The other one, as I said, Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty, she's a bit more optimistic. In June of 2016, says her note, Apple reduced the commission rate for annual subscriptions after the first year by half to 15%. This move attracted more subscription-based applications to its platform, and by the end of 2020, Apple expects to reach 600 million paid subscriptions, up from just 150 million in December of 2016. The analyst sees the new small business program as similarly stimulating innovation and engagement by independent and smaller developers. She says that the move could accelerate app download growth rate in the long term. How do you know? Not saying she's wrong because I don't know, but how do you know? I mean, we've seen. Well, no, that's not true. I was going to say we've seen app download rates increase this year, but they actually haven't. I can't remember which study it was now, but there was one that said that the number of people downloading apps and actually the number of apps downloaded from the App Store has gone down, but the people who are buying bigger. They're buying more subscriptions. They're buying more in-app purchases. It's basically the people who have money are spending more of it in the App Store. So it's an interesting argument. I don't know that you'll see a one-to-one correlation. And again, I would question whether there are developers who aren't developing because the cut has been 30%. I know there are developers who, rankle at the fact that the cut is 30%, and we all do that. Commission stinks. Commission stinks. It's also necessary, right? From ads that I sell, from things that I've done, if there's ever a middleman, they're taking a part of it. And that's great because without them, I wouldn't have any of it. 100% of zero is zero, whereas 50% of you get the idea. I don't know. She says it's going to grow the App Store. Sure, why not? I don't know that you're ever going to be able to see the point where they say, once they cut the commission to 15% for small developers, this thing was like a rocket. That seems unlikely. I reached out to a couple of developer friends to get their take on this. Unfortunately, I only heard back from one because I only remembered I had developer friends about 10 minutes before the show started. And so I texted them, and one of them got back to me saying, the new App Store commission structure is a fabulous step forward for smaller developers. Big companies like Epic Games with more than $1 million in sales would still need to pay the 30% commission. The devil's in the details, and we won't see those until December. Still, it is a great move on Apple's part. So says one independent developer. And all of the independent developers that Apple talked to and all the independent developers that Apple Insider talked to. Honestly, I'm really curious about CNET's take of, this has been a thorn in developer side for a long time, including big developers. I don't know any small developers that are complaining, but as we established earlier, I don't know all the developers. If I don't know all the people, there's no way. Or is that the other way? Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is a topic that we revisit maybe tomorrow or later this week as more is found out about it, as more pieces are written about it, as I have more time to, sort of sit with it. I don't know, honestly, that there's a right or wrong. I was going to say I would like to decide what I think about this. Maybe I'd rather not decide what I think about it because I don't know. There are so many different angles to all of it. Maybe everybody's right, or maybe nobody is. Anyway, As I say, I would love to hear your thoughts. Few ways to do that. You can leave a comment on this video. You can hit me up on Twitter if you want to, at macOSKen on Twitter, or twitter.com/macOSKen. Just make it clear what you're talking about. Otherwise, Twitter's a lot like people yelling, like 3 hours later, and you don't even know what they're talking about anymore. Really, the best way, though, to share your thoughts is to send me an email, info@macosken.com, info, info@macosken.com. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to bring feedback from this topic to tomorrow's show, if you could. So hit me up. Not sure if I said this earlier or not, but if you're catching the audio podcast of this, this is a live thing that we do every Monday through Friday, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places on YouTube. That is youtube.com/Ken Ray. The other thing we do is people in the chat room hang out and I talk to them after, which I'm going to do now. Well, not right now because I have to say goodbye first. But if you're in the chat room, please stand by. I will be by momentarily. Everybody else, talk to you soon. I keep doing that. I keep sticking out my tongue at the end. I shouldn't do that because it's rude and it's wrong and it's unseemly and, virus. It's a terrible thing to do. Sorry about all the noise. Sorry about all the moving. Let me see who said. Epic as a baby, says MN Searcher. I don't think you're wrong. Their baby isn't quite right though, right? They're kind of miscreants. They're kind of, I don't know how to put it. Oh, Ronald's still having problems with Big Sur. I need to go back up to the top because I was actually just starting down at the bottom there. Hey Andrew, send me information about your free app. I'm a small developer, as in my free app. Guess this won't help me, says Andrew. Curious what your app is. Send me an email. Charge 99 cents and only have to pay Apple 15 cents. Nice. $1 million, says Bill. It's funny. Okay. I said, of those to whom much is given, much is expected. Bill says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Roger says Epic is not a developer. They're a corporation who employs developers. Yeah. I'd like to be a guy who hires podcasters one day. Nice. Bill says, talking about Apple and this being a PR stunt. If there is a PR stunt that involves me getting more money, I'm totally okay with it. Word. As long as we don't have to totally go against our principles. I hear people have those. Eugene says maybe Apple is trying to divide and conquer. They split the millions of small developers apart from the big developers and make it look like David and Goliath. It's so funny because I was actually using the David and Goliath thing the other day as far as developers. I think when you picture Apple and developers, you picture David and Goliath, or you can anyway. The only problem is when you're talking about Epic, you're talking about Goliath and Goliath, or Goliath and Goliath Jr. maybe. We do also forget, I try to keep it in mind, and I'm not a developer, so I'm not as hip to all of it. We do also forget how much stuff it is that Apple does do with that 30%. Now, you can say, well, they could take some of the money from the new Macs and put it into the App Store, and they can. They could take some of the money from Apple TV Plus and put it in the App Store, and they can. But I mean, the 30% is not for nothing. Arbitrary and capricious is common legalese. Yeah, it's also fun to say. Do. I could wear a mask, that's true, and get yelled at from the floor of the Senate. Hey, Steven says he got his Mac Mini with M1 today, been working on setting it up during this afternoon. Thought it was just supposed to work, Steven. You should let me know how it goes. Actually, would you also email me? Because I'm curious how, actually, anybody who's got one of the new Macs, and Ronald, I'm sorry about what's going on with you. I don't really know how to respond to it. I would be curious to hear, well, first of all, if they find a solution for you, but then also, anybody who's got one of the new Macs, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. All right, I think John McKee gets the last part of it. Yeah, okay. John gets the last word for the day. I said earlier, people I think have principles. John said, haven't had a principal since high school. And with that, he drops the mic. He goes like this. I'm doing all that, by the way, not me. I'm going to say thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. More, I think, than you know. I don't know, though, because I don't know you. You might know exactly, but it means a lot that you guys are here every day. Right. Live long and prosper. That's a thing people do. Nanu is also, I got to go. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on macOS Ken and on the checklist and in a few minutes in here. Yeah. Take care.